Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another inspiring and exciting episode of the Inspired Life Vancouver, where we bring on a weekly basis amazing locals who are making an amazing impact on their communities. Joining me right now is someone who I met while walking on the runways in Vancouver. And she's not only beautiful as a model, but she's also a very talented entrepreneur. She's doing amazing things, not just in BC, but you're traveling from Vancouver to Toronto, and is also a media personality. You may recognize her from the Zoomer Media show Everything Explained. I've been really enjoying watching all your episodes and segments online, which I find truly fascinating. I'm talking about none other than Natasha Raey. Natasha, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. And you and I actually have been connected for longer. From childhood days.
I know. Right? Oh my goodness. I know. Time just and I have to tell you, you look the same. Like as soon as you walked in, I was like, your hair, your smile, everything. You've grown out your bangs. You've grown out your bangs, but everything else, your hair, you look absolutely stunning, and I'm loving the dress. With everyone who comes on the show, I love getting inside the mind of entrepreneurs who I truly admire, and I think you're one of them.
Thank you.
I feel you've really been ahead of the curve on a lot of things when it comes to women's empowerment, when it comes to health and wellness, and really, really ahead of the curve. So what got you started? I know you from back in the day, but for our audience to know, what inspired you to get started? And to be an entrepreneur, it takes a certain amount of courage, I feel.
Well, I did the conventional university, undergrad and master's. It was just sort of an expectation in my family, you will go to school after high school. But I always felt like just a regular job wasn't for me. I felt like I had more to offer. And so that was kind of what propelled me into doing different things. And I feel like I've always been sort of blessed in that opportunities have just always arisen. I'm a really big believer in manifestation and sort of envisioning what you want for your future, and then it just comes. So that's sort of what got me on the path. And just I've worked in a ton of different industries. I've been lucky to meet so many amazing people and mentors who have really shown me the way in health and wellness and a lot of other types of industries, even in beauty and fashion. And then, this opportunity with Zoomer Media came up, and, now I get to work more on the TV and hosting side, which, isn't even something I went to school for, but it was just sort of a fake it till you make it thing.
Yeah. Same here. I definitely did not, go to school for this, but it was everyone would say to me, you have a voice, you need to be, a personality. And I was like, no, I'm an actor and, used to model and whatever.
Yeah.
But I love seeing you traveling, on almost a weekly basis. You're going, your show looks amazing. I saw a bunch of clips on YouTube.
Thank you.
But I really want to understand, what would you say has been the secret sauce to your success? Because from fashion to beauty, you were the co-founder of SheTalks, SheTalks was this amazing platform where you brought in female entrepreneurs and artists and women making a positive impact on the community. And you're really very community-driven person.
Yeah. I think, when we look at SheTalks, the piece for me that was the most important was sharing your story. So, when you have knowledge about PR, having a PR background, then the one thing you always think of is if you put your story out there, no one can ever hold it against you. So, we live in a world where people are very much, you sort of see things on social media, you have an idea of who a person is, and sometimes you'll say things about a person that aren't as friendly because you just have an assumption about them. But the piece around SheTalks was, no, this is who I am, and this is my story, and I'm going to tell you my story, and then you can never use it against me. And it's also very freeing. A lot of the women who spoke, were not just entrepreneurs, but had also gone through a lot of trials in their life. And, I've gone through things that were pretty terrible. And so just being able to free yourself from that story sort of being your shackles, that was kind of another piece of SheTalks. And I think it provided strength to the women in the audience, because you would see this woman talking who looks so put together and has her life together, but then you hear her story and you're like, okay, wow, she's a lot more like me than I thought, and she made it out the other end. And that was the inspirational piece around it, you know. So it's not just sharing your story, but showing someone like where you are right now. I've been there, but look at me now. Like, you know, domestic violence and just all sorts of things that women have unfortunately experienced in this world, but we can come out of it and be strong and shining stars. So that was really what the impetus behind SheTalks was.
That's so beautiful. And I think, you know, when we hear other people share so honestly about their struggles, versus sometimes the shame can keep us quiet, or be like, I'm not going to let someone in and just present this beautiful filtered reality through social media, versus when we come together in a room and hear and support each other. I really feel like, you know, like through social media, I've stayed in touch with your career, even when I was abroad, like living in Paris. And
when I was living vicariously through you, that's my most favorite place in the world. I was like, should I go visit?
Yes.
And then I can stay there.
Oh my God, come with me in September.
Oh my God, I would love that.
Yes, please, Fashion Week. And you know, it's like, I love your dress, you have your bag, you know, everything. You look absolutely stunning. But I do think what you mentioned about social media and how people can have this idea of like, okay, this is, you know, sometimes people ask me, they're like, oh yes, your so-and-so supported you, and, you know, or like your family just did this. And I was like, no, man, like this is me doing everything like on my own. But sometimes we need that platform, or we need someone just holding our hand, or being like, hey, let's go for coffee and let's have this conversation. Like yesterday I met up with Farzana, who's going to be a guest.
Yes, I know her.
Next week, and just such a beautiful spirit inside and out. And again, know her from back in the day in modeling, and then when you see the person's inside, you're just like, wow, such a beautiful spirit. Now on your social media, you definitely talk about manifestation, a connection with your higher power quite a bit. How do you feel that has played a part in your success?
Well, I mean, my faith is the most important thing in my life. So like my relationship with God is the most important thing. Am I allowed to talk about that?
Yeah.
Okay. It's the most important thing in my life. And so, you know, just having that purpose, you know, like I'm not just here for me. Like I'm here for a higher purpose. And so, you know, I talk to God all day long. Yeah. And it's a service thing. Like, what are the gifts that I have that I've been given that I can use to make
Have
the
you
world.
Always been like this? Did your parents instill this in you?
Like my parents were all different religions, which is kind of funny. So like, but I grew up, my mother is very religious. I did grow up in a home where, you know, religion was important, but like obviously my religion is different from theirs, but just faith was important to me. So even for me, when I was like looking for a partner, I'm like, I don't need you to be the same faith as me, but I just need to know that you also believe in something, because I need to know that we're both like here for a greater purpose that's bigger than ourselves, because the world, like especially right now, is kind of a depressing place, you know, and we need to know that there's a greater purpose out there and there's something beyond where we are. And so that's part of like what's always driven me, is like, how do I serve and within all these like opportunities and gifts that I've been given, because they're a gift, and so I need to show that I'm making use of this gift.
Completely. And that's really, really beautiful. Like I feel like everyone who sits on this red couch, it's like red burgundy couch, it makes me think of the red table talk that Jada does. You know, people really start opening up, and it's just the space, and even the word inspire, like Inspired Life Vancouver, for me, it was like, I want to have these deeper conversations with people who I admire and ask them about their mindset, because we can wear a pretty dress, I can have my hair and makeup done, but if I am not feeling that high vibration on the inside, that can still like seep out. So I love to ask, like, you know, when you've had the low points in your career, what have you done? Do you have like a particular practice? Like, is it like horse riding or hiking or meditation or journaling? Like, I love to know like how you give yourself that juice, you know, the juice to like be creative or go out in the world and take big risks. because being an entrepreneur,
it's a risk. The whole thing is a risk.
It's like, am I going to fall on my face? Like, what is going to happen? Like, how do you get that energy, and how have you pulled yourself out of when you've had some of the valleys, the peaks and the valleys?
Yeah, and when I think of some of the lowest points in my life, like I do feel very blessed that I have an amazing family and a partner, because we need that support system around us, and that is partly what helps bring me up. And then for me also, like, fitness is such an important part of my life, and so if I have to work out every day, like, it's just good for my brain, and that's my time to just be alone and be with my thoughts, or a true crime podcast, because that's often what I'm listening to.
Really?
I know.
Oh my God.
I'm like, I'm super strange. Like, I used to work out in silence, which is also strange, and now I'm really into listening to Dateline episodes when I work out. So I don't know how, but that just like
it's interesting you're saying the true crime. One of my friends just launched a true crime podcast, and it's locally based actress. I'll share that information with you, and she's helping like solve and interview these people.
Wow.
It's really fast. I can't listen to that. I'm just like, I can't. But someone was on the show last week, and they were mentioning about working out without listening to anything.
Yeah.
Or going for long walks.
In silence.
So their thing was, so you can download information.
Yeah.
Don't turn on your phone in the morning. Don't go on Instagram for that dopamine hit.
Right.
Which I'm so guilty of.
Yeah.
But now I'm practicing that, where it's been like actually a week today that I turn off my phone an hour before I, like all those kinds of things, and noticing. So do you have like a particular morning routine or evening routine that you're like, this is what I do? Because you're traveling for work, you're going to different places. You have to somehow mentally prep yourself before you're on camera.
I do, and the unfortunate thing is I kind of live my life like a cat. So I do not have a morning routine. Everything is always different. So it depends on what I'm doing in that day. But for me, the first thing I need to do is have like my coffee, and I need my brain to wake up. And I just like to sometimes just sit there on the couch with my coffee in silence. And I call it like staring at a wall. Like, you're literally just sitting there and just not doing anything, which I think is
life.
Yeah, coming to life. And then, then I start like my morning emails or prepping for the day or whatever I have to do. So I don't really have like that morning routine, and my days always look different. Like, some days I work out at 10 a.m. Some days I work out at 10 p.m. It just depends on what I have to do, but my calendar drives my life. And I think that's also what motivates me, like knowing that I have things to do, and all of those things that I'm doing are contributing to these kind of goals that I have in my head, and I also am sort of like a work hard, play hard kind of person, even though I'm not like a crazy partier or anything, but I like to enjoy myself too. Like, I love food, and so we're always going to like restaurants and, eating different types of foods. And we have this other couple, my husband's best friend and his wife, who we always like to try a different restaurant. So, it's like just the little things that bring me joy.
I feel like I know about the things you're doing because I see your stories. I'm like, yes, I saw you wore that pink outfit when you were working out.
And the food.
I saw you were at that restaurant. I saw the dessert you had.
I know. And if I go for dinner with someone and they don't order dessert, I'm like, why did we come? Like, why? We could have just had dinner at home. Like, we could.
I love that. I'm always like, I have room for dessert.
Always. There's a second stomach.
It's the celebration. It's like, you need to have that celebration. Yeah, talking about movement and fitness, and whether it is like lifting weights or walking. Like, for me, walking seems to be such a way of, I feel like I digest information, my day, emotions, like, and having a dog, like having Loki in my life has really helped me. I came back from Paris like literally 1 month before the lockdown.
Yeah.
And I was living in this building on the 22nd floor, and I just come back to Vancouver. And then it's like, I went through this super low phase, and the thing that helped me come back to life, that helped give me energy and positive energy, was petting dogs.
Yes.
And going for walks. And I started with simple walks, then it led to hiking with friends, and just noticing how my mind would quiet down. Because before, the whatever anxiety and whatever the feelings that were coming
and
up,
like the negative self-talk, which everybody does.
Yeah, the comparison and all of that. And social media has been such an important part of my life. Like it opened my world, especially living in Europe. And I didn't speak French. People are like, vous êtes française? You know, parlez-vous français? And I'm like, ah, petit peu.
Well, you speak more than me. So.
And like, bonjour, like, comme ça, you know, c'est combien, like, how much is this? And as long as I know, okay, how much is
and where's the bathroom? As long as you can say, how much is this? Where's the bathroom?
Yeah, exactly.
That's all you need to know.
We're good. But coming back here and doing the movement and off like hiking and doing all this outdoor, beautiful, abundant background that we have here in Vancouver, it just made me fall in love with British Columbia and BC. I was like, I've been to all these places in the world, but oh my God, what we have is like the best.
We are so lucky.
Thing.
Like Wayne and my husband and I, when we were driving back from Kelowna this weekend, we took the longer route, which is the Crow's Nest, the like Highway 3, I think it's called. And we stopped at like all the little towns, and you see all these little lakes, and people are stopping there and having lunch. It's like, you're like me. We've traveled the world, but we're so lucky to live in this province because I spend a quarter of my time in Ontario, and I love Toronto, but you know, it doesn't compare to what we have here. Like, look, this is the ocean. I can see the ocean.
They're very blessed. So, do you do any outdoor activities here that, you know, that you are in any special places that you go to? I know you've been going to Kelowna quite a bit.
Yes.
Any special spots you can share with us, and any activities that you do that you're like, oh my God, I love to do this in the summertime and in the wintertime?
Well, so West Kelowna is like my spot. So I just have a home there now, and it's, for me, like, I love hiking. I love being outside. I haven't been doing it as much, but I'm trying to get more into it because for me, I'm just sort of like very much that gym workout done person. And then I'm also an equestrian. So horseback riding has always been something that's been in my heart, and is something that I love to do. So a lot of amazing riding trails out in like South Langley. I did take about a year break from riding a horse. So I've had 2 concussions just from different riding accidents. And so I needed to take a break from my brain because I was starting to feel like the brain fog and messing up my words and memory loss. So I just needed a break from riding, but I am thinking of like getting back on in the saddle in the fall, maybe.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, it made me sad because I love horses, so not riding for a year, you know, every time I see a horse, I'm like, but, you know, I'm hoping to get back into it in the fall, but I just needed that break just because I was feeling a lot of the symptoms from the concussions. Yeah.
Wow, I'm glad you're doing better. Last year for my 40th, I went down to Bridge Lake. It's in the middle of BC in the interior, to this ranch. It's called Whetstone Ranch.
Okay.
And they allow horses to just roam.
So cool.
And it's run by this family. I think they're German or Dutch. And mostly it's like the sisters now. They're these beautiful sisters and their kids. And these horses that are just so calmly walking, like, around, trotting around.
Right. Yeah.
It's an experience. I'm like, am I in Black Beauty? Like, this is... And how they were with Loki, you know, of course I have to be careful because he was much smaller puppy, but it was such an experience because I had one part of my birthday at the Fairmont, and then I'm like, I'm going to the middle of BC with, and I had heard about equine therapy before. Like friends of mine had mentioned that how good that is for like PTSD and trauma. Oh my God,
it's amazing.
And how they say that how horses give you the exact energy that you're putting out.
They do.
So how has that been for you? Because they talk about working with horses for leadership.
Yes, and I have worked with an equine therapist in
the
past, and it's like people don't understand this like connection we have with horses. Like they totally understand our hearts. So you can always like see how a horse feels about someone, and that tells you a lot. Like when you see them around children, and they're just so like cuddly and loving because children have such pure hearts, and just being with a horse is so healing. Like it's hard to explain it, but it's just one of the most healing feelings I've ever felt in my life. And I think that's what drew me to horses, you know, was just like healing through trauma and just different things. And it was just that connection is stronger than anything I can feel. Like there's nothing freer than being on a horse and just riding.
I love that.
Yeah.
You're making me and like I've been talking to a few friends because one of the things was I wanted to do a segment, you know, on perhaps like next season and we get bigger production. But yeah, I really like growing up in Pakistan. I grew up in more open spaces, and you know, like I love my apartment and I love the view, but jealous you get to live on this beautiful farm.
It is nice.
But there's something so special about animals, and even with Loki, my dog, like having him, and when he looks at me, like whether I'm feeling happy or sad or low or whatever, it's just that connection of this pure love.
Yeah. It's that connection. Like I have 2 cats, and I am like, people think I'm the crazy cat lady, but I just love animals. I don't know. It's a different relationship you have with an animal, because I don't actually believe that there is such a thing as unconditional love. I think no matter what, there's always some sort of a
Treats.
condition or something on the love, but with an animal, like it really is. I mean, yeah, they love their treats, but you know that you are their whole world.
Yeah.
And they just like the love that we have for animals and they have for us. Like I don't think anything can match that.
I completely agree. Let's talk about your show, Everything Explained.
Okay.
Tell us about that.
So Everything Explained is a show that's part of Zoomer Media, and our goal really is to come up with topics that are relevant to our audience. So our audience is 45 plus, and so we've talked about everything from travel to aging in place, because that's so important, right? You know, especially as I start to get older, and I think, I don't know, like some of those retirement homes do look kind of cool, but it would be nice to like stay in my own home for as long as I can. And we've talked about things like AI and how it's going to change healthcare in our world. And so we're planning our next season, and so we're looking at different topics, one of which might be pets, because pets are really important.
Yeah.
And like I've been talking about them a lot, but you know, and especially for people as we get older, you know, if you lose your partner, it's just having that companionship as well. And then just looking at things like aesthetics, like how do we keep our skin looking healthy and feeling healthy? Because as much as we like to think that it's really only the inside that counts, the outside does kind of count. Because if you look in the mirror and you're happy with what you see, then that's going to make your day. You know, I used to remember I'd wake up feeling depressed, and I would just put on a dress, and it would just make me feel a little bit better, you know, because I put a little more effort.
It makes such a difference. It's funny, from when I walk my dog and not wearing anything, baseball cap and go, and then I put something on, or there's been times when I, like we're filming and in between I'll go walk Loki and I'm in a dress, and just to see how people are reacting to me, or a particular color that I would wear,
Right.
or especially in wintertime when it's raining and if I'm wearing my bright yellow jacket,
Yes.
that is so bright, on a very dark gray day, people, you can sense when they see color, how they react to that. It's so interesting that you say that. And one of the things that I was thinking of when you were talking about beauty and aging was Golden Girls.
Yes.
You know, or like, and I'm like, okay, in like a month and a bit, I'm going to be 41. And like, what the idea, I remember in my 20s, what I thought someone 41 was an ancient. In my brain, I was like, 41 is like, you're over the hill.
And the Golden Girls weren't even that old.
I know.
I think they are like, and they're like, how old were they?
I'm
Like
not sure,
50s or something? Like my husband's 50 and he's hot. Like, you know, that's the thing. Like now that I'm like, now that we're in our 40s, like I just turned 42, and you're sort of like 40, not 42. I don't want to age myself. I just turned 40 as well.
Happy birthday.
But it was December, but I'm still celebrating. But you know,
Great.
like you just start to look at the world in a different way, because I like look at you and you're stunning. You know, but
And
like
so are you.
when I was younger, I was like, oh, 40. But now I'm like, no, you know what is so cool is getting older, because you just feel more freedom, and you get to that point in your life where you're like, say what you want about me, I don't really care anymore. Like it's that's a you problem. That's not a me problem.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
So I think you just feel more confident, and I think we also get more beautiful, which is pretty cool.
Which is that internal beauty. So I've spoken to a lot of like actresses and models who've come on the show and talking about beauty. Like, what does beauty mean to you now? And what does that mean? You know, it's like we're segueing and talking about the external and internal. What does beautiful mean to you?
I mean, to me, like, and you get it, but like when you're in the public eye and you're doing things where you're looking at yourself on camera, sometimes you're image of yourself can be a little distorted because, and then you're a little bit more picky about how you look. But to me, beauty means, like, when I look at myself in the mirror, am I happy with what I see? And it also has to shine from inside, because you can be absolutely stunning and then have the most terrible insides and you're not beautiful anymore. It's not just about looking amazing. It's also about what's inside of your brain. And I always tell my friends who have daughters, make sure they know they're smart before they know they're beautiful. Because then the two, can come together.
Yeah.
But if you know you're beautiful first, then sometimes you start to lean on that, and then the other stuff doesn't matter as much, but the other stuff does matter. So the beauty is, how beautiful is your brain and your heart, and how beautiful are your outsides. And the outsides are different for everyone. Like, you walk outside, we're in such a diverse place, and there's beauty in everything and everyone. So it's just, like, I look at couples, and it's kind of funny, like, I think to myself, I would never date that person. But, like, that person and that person are together because to each other, they're beautiful. And that itself is beautiful. I don't know if I explained that.
No, completely, because it's that special light inside of everyone and sometimes it takes a certain person to see that.
Right.
And the eccentricity of the beauty that is, and especially now, like, I think of that so much. I think of now being in my 50s and 60s and having more conversations around beauty and also ageism, and I want to openly talk about my age and how old I am, because for a long time, like, so many people would just be like, never tell anyone your age. Or someone was introducing me to a new talent agent and they're like, I said she's in her mid-30s. And, and it's like, I am, like, it's a blessing for me to be this age. Like, my mom passed away before I moved to Paris. So she was diagnosed with cancer at 50 and passed away at 52. And so many people, like Oprah said, like, you have to own your age, because so many people don't get to be this age.
It's true. Yeah. And I lost someone very close to me when she was 34. And it's, it's crazy, because I was younger than her, but, like, now I've passed that age, and I think, like, what would she have been like if she'd made it this far, and she left behind 2 daughters, and we don't know how long. And even for me, like, the age thing was a struggle. Like, as I was getting closer to 40, I was like, okay, like, when do you start telling people your real age, because we keep going back a year. Like, I'm not going to be in my 30s forever. But now and I think Zoomer has really helped me with that. Joining Zoomer and seeing how, like, aging it's embraced, and even, like, every cover of the magazine we have is, like, a cool, beautiful person who is not in their 20s or 30s. And even, like, you're seeing it with Vogue now, and I'm hoping it's not a fad. I'm hoping it's something that we continue to see, especially as we get older, because I was just on the cover of Boulevard magazine, which is, like, for me, like, so exciting. And I'm like, it's pretty cool that I never thought at 40 I'd be on the cover of a magazine, and I hope that maybe it'll be a national magazine one day. I don't know, maybe I'll manifest that. But,
of course,
it's like just knowing that opportunity should still exist for us, and we're not aged out, because we kind of do get aged out of modeling. Like, there's just different forms of modeling that you do age out of, which is unfortunate. Some people are like, do you still model? I joke, and I'm like, I'm a senior citizen in modeling now.
Oh, please. You look, honestly, you look the same. I'm not even saying this to make you feel, you literally look the same as a cajillion years ago.
Well, and I will say, and I've had some tweaks. I'm not going to, like, lie. There's been some tweaks. The skincare is very important. Thank you, Dr. Monam, for your tweaks.
Well, we love an honest baby. We love that. And, I was so proud of you when I saw the cover, and I was like, I need to lock down a date with her. I'm like, we need to have you here. And one of the things I love talking about, and quite a few of the female actresses and models who've come on the show have talked about, is that how I remember when I was younger, this sense of feeling, because it's put out in the society of the competition. And especially when I started modeling, there were, like, no South Asian females. There was only one other person, Amrit, who I'm going to bring on the show. She was with Lisbeth.
Yes, I remember seeing her and being so proud, because we never saw people who looked like us.
No.
Never.
No. Yeah. And, like, we're going to bring her here, and, like, just, she's doing these amazing things. She's in Montreal right now with Amazon. And But I think in society in general, just the thing of like, first being a female, like who's in that industry, and then number two, when you're a minority female, and then knowing that there's only a certain amount of spots for that. And I remember inherent, it was like a subtle thing, but it was there, this competition thing. And, quite a few women, like, whether they're actresses in Hallmark movies, they're leads in films, and talking about like how like, I'm not sure if that's something you even thought of, or because I know you've been involved in tech and health and wellness, and modeling was just a very little thing. But it can be sometimes a thing in any industry, like doesn't really matter, because you're like, okay, am I like the token this person, and do I have to like fight for this role? And that's something I've had to overcome over time for me. And now I'm enjoy talking about this, because I think it's an important thing to talk about. Like,
it is, and I think the world has changed a lot. Like, I love watching movies from like the 80s and 90s and 2000s. I don't know, it's, it kind of brings back that feeling from when we were younger, and like you would never see women who looked like us on those movies. And so, and then you always have this feeling like we have to be so much more attractive to even be noticed, which is kind of like a weird way, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. And so now it's nice that it's just everywhere. But I think also we're living in this world where people are starting to get weirded out by too much diversity, and I'm hoping that it's not going to be pulled, and I don't even want to go there, but I know everyone knows what I'm talking about, but I just hope that it doesn't start to pull back what we've fought so hard for. Because like, Amaret, like I could see her on your fridge, like it's just cool that she has staying power, and she's still with Liz Bell, which is one of like the top agencies, and she still looks the same too, but it's like, I hope that we have staying power in the industry, because we have something to give besides the color of our skin.
But I do think that is just so important to have that showcase, because I remember growing up in Pakistan, the Barbies that I got, I didn't really grow up playing with Barbies. I grew up playing with like guns, because like fake toy guns.
I was like, oh, okay. Wow.
And like climbing trees. I was such a tomboy. I didn't even know how to walk in heels. I didn't even know how to put on mascara. Like I was like just a huge tomboy, or these big baggy clothes, because I was like surrounded by brothers and male cousins, and I had to be like a boy to like play with boys, But when I would watch Full House, and I would look at these Barbies, and as a kid, you can't help but feel like I'm not pretty.
Yes.
Or I'm not beautiful, because no one like me is on television.
Right.
No, it's a very subtle message, but it does get implanted. And then what I wanted to talk about was, just sometimes the inherent competition that can come even between us, right?
For sure,
like I'm not saying like here on this, but I'm saying like one of the conversations like I've enjoyed having with women is around that competition or jealousy or envy or size or someone booking, because I went through that when I was younger. And I remember looking at my photos or someone else's, feeling like, oh, measuring myself and like weighing myself, and just like all that thing, just because there were not enough spots for someone who looked like me. And it's taken a lot of healing work to be like, my worth is more than this, and that my inner light can shine. So is that something you can relate with? Because I know you're like this entrepreneur babe, but you also come from that fashion world.
Right.
And I'm sure even in that world, there can be, like, how have you dealt with that, like the sense of competition even between females?
Well, I think that's part of the reason why I shied away from really getting into the modeling and acting world. Like even going to auditions, it's so like weird to be in a room with a bunch of people who look like you, who are all vying for the same.
And they're your friends.
Yeah, and
like for me, like they're my friends.
I walked into an audition here, like it was years ago, and I saw Mina Man, and I was like, oh hey, like you're up against, because there's only so many of us, and especially in Vancouver, you have like Nisha and Mina and like me and you and Amaret, and there's just like, so I think that's part of the reason why I went more into like the business science world, because I was like mentally, I don't know if I'm strong enough to deal with that sort of thing. But like even the competition with females outside of this industry is something that I think we need to...
Because I'm sure even in the entrepreneurial world, because there can be...
Girl, even with friends, sometimes you're trying to figure out like who's actually my friend and who's...
Yeah. So
Yeah.
can I ask, like, how has that process been for you? Like, how you've dealt with it? Because to be quite frank, it's only been the last couple of years for me that for me to, I'm not sure like when the switch happened, but for me to like learn to embrace this and
Right.
you know, even talking openly, like this summer I haven't been working out so much between the show, my dog, auditioning, everything.
Yeah.
I don't, and for me to learn to embrace that it's okay if things are a little bit jiggly. It's okay. I'm not as like, you know, it was not something that was taught to me. Like I did not in my family, we didn't have these conversations growing
No,
up.
never. Yeah.
So it's been something that I've struggled with, and now I'm enjoying having these conversations because I feel that hopefully that someone else can listen in, a younger girl or any human, like, you know,
Right.
listen in, that we do get pit up against each other, whether
sure.
you're in the entertainment world or an entrepreneur or any world.
Yeah.
That how we can be like, hey, if you're beautiful, talented, successful, I'm happy for you.
Yeah, and that's how it should be. And I try and just turn myself off from the noise. Like I call that noise, and I just try and like.
How do you do that?
I think by keeping my circle smaller. I think that helps a lot, because I think when your circle's really big, you just start to hear things. People are like, did you know this person said this about you? Do you know this is happening? And that is not good. Like my circle, even if I think from like last year to this year, has gotten so much smaller. And that was part of the reason, because I was like, I'm living in this world where everyone's just constantly talking. And then you start to feed into it too and become that person as well. So just by making the circle smaller, because, you know, if you make your personal circle smaller, then you're not dealing with it in your personal life. And then I'm very careful about what I'm doing business-wise, like who am I working with? Because I've made some mistakes in the business world, like working with people and it just went terrible. So learning from those mistakes and being very careful. And most of the work I do in business now is with my brother. So we do most of our investments together and all of that. And you know what? He's my brother.
And someone you know very, very well.
Yeah, we grew up together, you know,
Yeah.
like we used to eat pizza pops together after school, you know, like he's not someone who's going to compete with me because
Yeah.
we're after the same goal. So, and that's the unfortunate thing. And I look at, sometimes I envy my husband, because I watch him, like, and all of his friends, and they all work together and they invest together. And it's like, I don't know, there's just something different sometimes with females. It's like just the way the world was formed. We were always put up to be competitive with each other. Whereas with men, it was kind of different. Like they were competitive in sports, but then like my husband will be like, I never have problems with anyone. I'm like, okay, cool story, but like it's also a little different because you're a man.
Yeah.
I don't know, I can't explain it.
But even in male friendships, I completely agree. And learning to have, like, for example, one of my best friends is getting married, who's like a sister. I've known her forever. But being part of the bridal party, I'm just, I guess, being super honest here, like having to have like some conversations,
Right.
you know, that other people may not feel comfortable having some of those conversations, but me being like, okay, this is my budget, this is what we're gonna do. I'm not gonna just like be, you know, just pretend that this elephant in the room, we're just not gonna.
Right.
And me 5 years ago, 10 years ago, there's no way. I think my ego and my pride would be so much, versus having a voice and use it. So that's what I want to talk about. Like, first of all, I'm really proud of you, the work that you've done.
Thank you. You
Not
as well.
just, thank you, not just in television and broadcasting and beauty and fashion, but as an entrepreneur in health and wellness. And the fact, I really think you're a total boss, babe. Like, you've been ahead of the curve. I remember back in the day doing some runway show and we were finishing, and you told me, you're like, yes, I just do this thing for fun because it's a fun thing for me to do. But like, I'm like in, you know, pharmaceuticals, and I'm doing this tech thing. And it's, for me, I find it very fascinating because I find you as a very fully rounded person.
Thank you.
Because I think sometimes in that entrepreneurial world, even I've had these challenges when I'm very kind of focusing on the business. I can be very like the business person. I
Right.
put on that
Yes.
thing, but you're still like, I'm gonna bring my feminine energy
Yes.
into
Yeah.
that world. What would you say to someone, because you've taken lots of risks and had all these different ventures, someone starting out their own business, what advice would you give to them?
I mean, I think look at things and people and businesses that you admire and see what they've done really well, because there's no sense in reinventing the wheel, and people have figured out secrets to success for their own businesses, and just do it. I find sometimes we just get so, like, even with me, I'll have an idea. I've been sitting on an idea for like a little while now, and you're just sitting on this idea, but you haven't done anything. Like, everyone can have an idea, but it's those people who can actually like force themselves to start putting it into action. And a lot of times, like, I've done all sorts of things that have never gone anywhere. And that's what happens when you're an entrepreneur. Like, you take a risk, you throw something at the wall, and sometimes it sticks and sometimes it doesn't, and knowing that failure is okay. Like, there's a whole movement, or like a speaker series, it's in Toronto, I think it's here too, it's called like F Up Nights, and it's about, you know, the curse word, but it's about like people who have failed, and they're talking about their failures, and so knowing that it's okay to fail. And then I think another like sort of secret that I have is, don't broadcast what you're doing until you're proud of it. Because when you start talking about your ideas, sometimes either people will start to lose faith in you if they haven't moved forward. And sometimes and it goes back to that whole manifestation thing, and I might get a little too like woohoo here.
No, I love that. I'm into woo-hoos.
like if you share things and say things, not everyone has the best intentions for you. And, you know, sometimes I was trying to remember to put like the black dot behind my eye and where the Archangel Michael, so I'm getting super woohoo here, but like, people don't always have the best intentions for you, and sometimes they may not wish positive things for you. So if you're sharing things with someone who may not want the best for you, you don't want energy that could block your own success. And I'm a very strong believer in that, because I don't think everyone is out there for the right intentions when it comes to what we want. And so how do we protect ourselves and our families from that, which is another reason why, like, even on my social media, like, I have a huge social media presence, but I'll never post my immediate family. I'll never post my husband or my stepson, because I want to keep them protected. Like, I can't be protected because I'm already out there. But, you know, the most we can do to protect the people around us, because you just don't know what people are doing. And now that AI is out there, there's some pretty scary possibilities that I was learning about last night. So yeah, protection is important.
Like, I mean, the AI conversation can be another chat on its own, because even in high schools and kids and bullying and the road that can take, but, you know, hopefully there can be laws and different regulations in place. I won't even go down that path. But yeah, no, I want to talk about manifestation, and how does that look for you? Like, do you journal? Do you make to-do lists when you get ideas? Do you put them in your phone? Do you have an ideas journal? Do you have a vision board? Like, give us the secret sauce. Give us the secret.
Yeah, I'm not like regimented about anything. So I've done a vision board, but in my mind, I'm always like, these are my goals, and this is what I want to achieve this year. And then I start to get really big into the woohoo stuff, you know, like the full moons and like where we are astrology, because it does make a difference.
Huge difference.
Like, it makes a massive difference.
Yesterday was the supermoon, right? Yeah, in Capricorn.
Right, and it's a good time for and it's just everything that they've been saying, like, even during COVID, and by they, I mean all the people who are like reading the stars and the moon, like, it's all kind of true, and it all has, so I follow that stuff like to a T. And then yeah, for me, the manifestation is just like coming up with the idea in my head and saying, this is what I want it to look like, envisioning what that world or what that goal will look like, and then just sort of working towards it. Because it's
you do that envisioning daily?
I'm probably like all day long, really.
Really?
Yeah. And manifestation isn't just like, you can't just do it on its own. It has to be with the work.
Backed with action.
Yeah, backed with action.
It can't just be like I'm meditating all day and like, you know,
I want
everything.
$1 million and it's just going to like show up.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I think the action taking is something that is big. How do you work with when you know you have something to get done, whether it's a new venture or maybe a new show, and the fear that when you get afraid, how do you overcome that? Do you get afraid?
I mean, I don't really get like afraid. I'm not like a person, I don't get like intimidated or scared really. And I sometimes I think that's maybe like a trauma response. You just stop feeling things altogether. But then sometimes I get frozen though, which is a problem, where like you have something to do or you have an idea and you know you have ample time to do it, but you just get frozen and you just start to like waste your time. Like for me, I like start watching an episode of like the Real Housewives of whatever. So changing space is good, because I find if I'm like sitting on the couch, I can get work done on the couch, but I also relax on the couch. So if I put myself in my office, then I'm like more in like a work mode. So that, you know, sometimes it's just changing the space I'm in, and I get so much work done on planes. I think it's because like there's no one to bother you, and you're just like, you know, people are bringing you food, and you're just like working as you're there. So
and you're up above in the clouds, and you're like, anything is possible.
I'm in the air.
I'm doing multiple things at the same time. Like I'm flying, and then I'm doing
I have a show on like in the background, and it's just like, so my office is also like the sky, which I do kind of love. I remember I had an ex who was like, you know, people don't see planes the way you and I do. Like for us, it's our commute. And I was like, it's true. For me, like the plane is my commute. Like even going to Toronto like once or twice a month it's kind of exhausting, you know, but it's also fun because that's, you know, I feel very blessed to even have that as an opportunity. So yeah, I just changing space and like forcing myself out of the frozenness is how I get through that.
I love that.
Yeah.
What are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? I don't know. I mean, I think career-wise, I don't know if it's happened yet. I think, you know, there's a lot of things I'm proud of, but I feel like I'm still meant to do something bigger. But I think if I think of what am I most proud of, I think it's just like who I am as a person, and like just like my family and the love that I have around me. I think that's what I'm most proud of, because, you know, one of your fears always, especially if you don't have like biological children, which I don't, is ending up alone. But then I think, you know, I hope that I've built enough love around me that that's sort of what I'm most proud of, because at the end of the day, like the money could be gone, the looks could be gone, the clothes could be gone, but if you still have those people, then that's, you know, a lot more than a lot of people have. So I think that's, you know, just my family, we're so close. My brother's my best friend, my husband's my best friend, like my stepson's amazing. Like I just feel very blessed to have that in my life. So I think that's what I'm most proud of. It's not a material thing, it's a heart thing.
I love that.
Yeah.
Do you do like a journaling practice or a gratitude practice? Do you do anything like that? Like not like only recently, since a friend of mine gave me this 5-minute journal.
Yes, I do have that, but I've never done it. I'm so terrible at those things.
I kind of became addicted to it. Like even when I travel, I take it with me. But I know you've said that you're like a cat, you're fluid, you're very fluid in those things. But are there any specific practices that you do other than working out, other than, you know, playing with your cat, that help you? Because I think what you were saying even with television earlier, sometimes I think we need that disconnect from reality to get even those ideas, and even to do boring things, even to do things that you're just like, should I feel guilty? No, I don't need to feel guilty. And then you could be watching something, you're like, hey, I got an idea from that for a show or for an episode.
I mean, I'm a podcast junkie now, so like and it's not just true crime. Like I do listen to other podcasts as well. So I think that's also my way of disconnecting from my life. And you learn a lot, and sometimes you like think about things in a different way because you're here. And for me, a podcast is like a safe place to get information, because we also live in a world now where I don't even understand what's out there anymore, and you know, in terms of like news and what's on YouTube. So for me, a podcast is a safe place to escape and not feel inflamed, because I think a lot of things we hear nowadays make us like inflamed just because they're, you know, controversial or they're depressing. And so a podcast helps me leave the world, but not in a negative way, because you go on Twitter and you're like, oh my God, what now?
Yeah. No. I've actually stopped using Twitter.
Yeah, me too.
I deleted it. Yeah. There was a time I was doing a lot of Twitter, but now I've like totally deleted.
Same. Yeah. It's just not the same as it used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is unfortunate.
What would you say inspires you in life? Where do you draw your inspiration from?
I don't know. I think probably like, I think my inspiration comes from myself and like what I think I am capable of doing. But I think it also comes from my family and showing, you know, making the people around me who have made me who I am proud of me. Because, you know, they created me for a purpose, and I was created for a purpose. So just trying to live up to that purpose. I think that's what inspires me.
That's beautiful. I love that. Is there a particular spot in Vancouver or surrounding neighborhoods, I know you mentioned Kelowna, that you like to go to get inspired?
I'm not like honestly, when I leave my house, I'm usually shopping or grocery shopping. So I don't know if that's really inspirational. But yeah, I think for me, like going to Kelowna, being anywhere near the water is what's inspiring for me. And just being around people I love and good food. Like all of that is inspiring.
Food is really inspiring.
It is.
When you smell fresh strawberries or blueberries, and it's just me and Loki, we love eating blueberries. It makes me think of this is summer, cherries and
so
fruit from like Okanagan or going to local farmers markets.
And we're so lucky to live where we do. Like there's local, like you have local fruit right
here. Right. It's totally blessed. And I don't think I acknowledged the blessings I had, to be honest, until coming back from Paris. Yeah. Because before I was like, oh, I'm moving to LA, I'm here, I'm going there, I'm going there. But here, there's something about, I like how wellness focused we are in Vancouver, in BC, and aiming to be more balanced in our lives and not just so work, but taking advantage of our surroundings and getting outdoors. So I love asking people like about, where they go to, like, is it the art gallery?
I do love the art gallery. I love all things art. Huge fan. Like even when you said you're going to Paris in September, there's a big tribal art fair that happens. Like I think it's the first or second week. So I've been to that, and it's probably one of the most inspirational things I've ever been to.
In September?
In September.
Okay.
Yeah.
I lived there. I didn't even know about that.
Or something. I don't remember what it's called. I'll send you information
on it. Okay, please do. Yeah. I think I'm going second or third week.
Okay.
So, yeah. So please do.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for taking the time to come here.
Thank you.
I'm very excited about your show, about the next season, and all the amazing conversations you're having on your show, and educating and informing people, and also all the work you do. And I think you're all encouraging other women, and especially other South Asian women, women of color, minorities. You're inspiring people just by being you, whether you would recognize that or not. I do think that we do live our lives not just for ourselves but for others, and the impact we have on others. And sometimes when we allow our light to shine and we step into our power, it gives other people the permission to be like, I want to be like her. I can be like her.
And I think that's what I hope I do, is show people that just live your life for you and for the people who are true to you. I think that's the best thing you can do.
Thank you, Natasha. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
Thanks, Loki.
Loki's like, okay, we're done. Hello, mommy, we're done.